So the way to get on an alligator's back is pretty simple. You start at the tail, you run, and jump. And when you land, you want your knees to land up in the alligator's armpits. You want our hands to land on top of the alligator's neck. Can anybody see what the first thing is to avoid here? Don't overshoot the target. Alright? Now, what allows us to climb on their back is they have really good eyesight, but they have a limited field of vision. So they really can only see things that are off to their sides, and they can see a little bit of what's above them. But they have some blind spots that we can use to our advantage. They have a big blind spot right behind them. So when you're approaching him from the tail, you're in essence sneaking up on the alligator. So you climb on, his head is facing off in the right direction. If he had his head turned to the side one way or the other, or another example would be if I try to jump from over here, that alligator's going to see us coming, and they're not that stupid. They'll spin around and they'll try and meet us halfway. So it is very important that when we're ready to climb on, we have to make sure that the head is facing off in the opposite direction. So it's lined up the way I need it. Just climb on, like that. And the first thing you might have noticed I did, no, I don't want to do this. The first thing you might have noticed I did when I hopped on here is I came up and I covered up the alligator's eyes. We've been told that when you cover up an alligator's eyes, they think that they're dead and they stop moving. Now that may or may not be true, but it does tend to calm them down just a little bit when you cover up their eyes. So if you notice them coming in before, they're not picky eaters. We choose chicken. It's one of the easier meats to find. It's usually relatively cheap. It's also fairly clean. When you notice when they get the food in their mouth, they do make a lot of chewing motion too, but I already told you guys that their teeth are not made for chewing. You guys all flinched about that, didn't you? They're not chewing the food in the sense of the word. They're just better situating it in their mouth so that it's a little bit easier for them to swallow it. That's all that chewing motion is doing. Here again, if you remember what I said about their tongue, how that tongue works like a valve, they can open their mouth underwater, but they can't actually swallow. So they're going to have to bring their heads up above the surface, tilt their heads back, they let the food slide on down into their stomachs. Also notice they they'll kind of twist, roll their heads off to the sides, like that. Wow, that is really not impressive. We're going to show you, this is the last piece I've got, but when they pick food up off the ground, because of how they're physically built, their mouth is really long, their neck is kind of short and muscular, so they can't reach out and grab things with the very front of their face. They have to kind of twist or roll their heads off to the sides when they pick that food up. So